Born Primitive Outdoor is proud to partner with Montana Knife Company, Marsupial Gear, Evolution Outdoors, Sheep Feet, and Capture Gear. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our sponsors. Good morning, everybody. It's Sunday and 5:15. It's quite early, but I was going to knock out another one of the video Q&A type of things. So I did one of these before. We're going to start doing one once a week or so, and I'm just answering questions that are either emailed into me, some texted, not very many, or sent to me on Instagram. So as I'm waking up, drinking my coffee, bear with me as I get caffeinated. I'm going to answer some of these questions. I've only done one of these so far. All right. So I've got a little bit, some on a list and some on my phone. So, and again, if you have any questions for me about anything, you can email me, Aron at bornprimitive.com. So that's ARON at BORNPRIMITIVE.com. And then it's Aron Snyder on Instagram. You can send them into the Born Primitive podcast as well, or Born Primitive Outdoor or Born Primitive podcast page as well. So I'm actually going to grab a pen really quick. Hold on. Okay, so question number one, and since I'm getting ready to go to the gym, I'm going to list this one off first. Hey, Aron, love following along with you. I know that you have changed your body type or whatever several times over the last 30 years. I have followed along with you for quite a while and am curious about your current diet and nutrition plan and what has changed over the years, as well as what you think would be a best all-around workout and diet. So I have changed quite a bit over the years, and when I say that, when I was I was a fat kid growing up, chubby little guy, and then doing the Army when I was 18, I was a 12 Bravo, so you do run a lot, even though I hated it. So, whatever, relatively fit when I was in the Army, got out, got really fat. Kind of had a change in my mindset, tried to get healthy, lost some weight, got really fit, started riding mountain bikes all over the place. Then I got really heavy into lifting, basically. And I did take a decent amount of steroids at that time. That was like 2007, 8, 9 time frame, 7, 8 time frame. Not for very long, I guess 7, 8. Anyway, got up to like 265, 270. Really big. I mean, muscle, but also some chunk on me. And then obviously, but after that, have stayed in that 200 to 220 weight class, I guess. And then diet has definitely changed, and I've learned more and more as time has gone on. So try to answer this my own way, but the way you asked it, what I would do today, or what I do today and what I would do today, because I'm doing it, I don't lift heavy anymore. I do a lot of, body weight workouts. So I do some machine stuff, but, when I go to the gym, I work out for 20 to 25 minutes now. I don't live in the gym as much as I used to. And so when I go in, I do some type of ab workout every day, and I do push-ups every day, no matter what. And I do push-ups throughout the day at the house, and I do air squats every day, and that's at the gym or at the house. And what that looks like with push-ups, I usually do 4 sets of 25, 5 sets of 25 when I'm at the gym. And then throughout the course of the day, I may knock out, a set of 25 to 50 here and there. But at the gym, when I go, I don't have a specific workout. Some people have a book and a program and whatever else. I don't, since I'm not lifting to tear my muscles to make them bigger anymore, I'm just lifting to basically maintain. And so I will lift, every part of my body, not every, but all of my body every day. So like back in the day when I lifted, I would do chest one day, or chest and tris, and back and bis, and the normal bullshit. So now I may sit and do seated rows on the machine with 130 pounds, 150 pounds, and I'll do 4 sets of 12. Then I may go over and do supersetting that with something like 25 crunches, or inverted crunches, or supine bicycle or something like that, supersetting. Then I'll go from that, and then I'll go to, let's say, to the leg extension machine, and I'll do not very heavy weight on that because my knees are getting to me, but 100 to 130 pounds, which is not a ton of weight on the leg extension machine. And I'll do a set of 12 to 15 of those, and I'll go over and grab anywhere from a 45 to 65 pound kettlebell and superset that with the kettlebell swing, and do 15 and 15, 12 and 12, something like that. When I'm done with that, I'll go get on whatever that is where forearms are on the deal, and I do leg raises. And I'll do, let's say, something 10 to 15 leg raises, and then I may go superset that with, let's say, like lunges, where I will, when I say that, I usually just lunge across the gym and back, but something like that. So my workout varies, but it's not anything crazy. It's for maintaining. The one thing that I think is important is, really focus on the legs. And when I say that, you don't have to, in my opinion anyway, you don't have to do anything crazy weight, but you do want to, that helps your core as well as your leg strength, but it also will help strengthen your knees if you're lifting correctly. And that's something that I have sucked at. So nothing too heavy, superset just about everything. And, I will do, I say my entire body, but multiple different muscle groups in a day because I'm not tearing my muscles. So that just depends. And I usually go to the gym once a day. In the winter, I go twice a day. As far as diet goes, I wrote a few notes on here, and I've talked about this before. I pretty much stick to meat, cheese, hummus, avocado, things like that. I try not to eat any processed carbs. I'm not perfect. I mean, I chew Copenhagen. I try to drink 120 plus ounces of water a day. I try to keep my caffeine in the 400 to 500 milligrams a day or less. But in the morning when I wake up, I don't eat. I just don't eat unless I'm hungry. And so like today, I had, when I woke up, which was like not very long ago, I had just a hard-boiled egg and some coffee. I don't have a set routine with this. I'm going to go to the gym when this is over with. I'll work out for 25, 30 minutes, depending upon what's stretching. Like this morning, I got plenty of time before church, so I'll probably stretch for 15 minutes after. So I may be in the gym 45 minutes total. When I come back from that, if I'm hungry, which I usually am, depending upon how hard I worked out, probably going to have 4 to 5 eggs pretty easily. I've got a leftover steak in the fridge, so I may have 2 or 3 eggs and some of that steak. But something like that. And I'll generally, when I eat hard-boiled eggs, which I eat a lot of times I'll take Colby Jack cheese and just make a egg taco. It's not appealing to watch me eat it because I just kind of water it all in my mouth. And then calories in, calories out, I try to keep a good log of what I'm eating. And so you can get like MyFitnessPal, and then I just document what I am eating throughout the day so I know my caloric intake. Because days I burn more calories, I'm probably going to eat more. But just keeping a good log of what you're eating exactly. I've done it enough where I probably don't even have to use MyFitnessPal enough or anymore. But I eat a little bit of veggies. I eat a little bit of salad, but pretty much meat, cheese, hummus, avocado. I'm lucky that I can eat the same thing every day. And when I say meat, I'm eating wild game and a lot of it. So I probably should do a podcast on that again, but I've done a ton of them on that. Okay. Number 2. All right. I have a question about success in hunting and what makes some people more successful than others. Is it money? Is it skill? A combination of both? Guided hunts? Anyway, let me know what you think. Appreciate you not bullshitting people when it comes to questions and answers like this, as some people would like to pretend when they go on a guided hunt. He actually lists some names here. on Instagram people, that they actually know how to hunt, but they're totally full of shit. I do get jealous of this sometime, and I know I shouldn't and just focus on myself. But it really pisses me off when dudes spend $30,000 to $50,000 on an elk hunt and pretend like it's public land, like I'm doing. Anyway, keep up the great work. Peace out. So as far as which is difficult, I have friends in the industry now that have trouble not focusing on people that may or may not be, generally are doing well with their social media status, that may not be great hunters and do pay for guided hunts. So I get where you're coming from, though. I will say, oh, that's good coffee. The moment you can get that out of your mind, the better off you'll be as far as a healthy and happy lifestyle. So keep that in mind. Don't worry about that shit. Focus on yourself. Is it money? Yes, sometimes it is money. Not always. And when I say that, you can definitely go to someone with a lot of money at their house, and they'll have a doll sheep and a stone sheep and a mountain goat and a giant elk and whatever else. And they really didn't, what I would say, hunt for those things. Now, that's not to say that if you go on a guided hunt, that you don't know how to hunt there, but there are people that use money to certainly compensate for lack of knowledge, discipline, and hard work. And you see that all the time. There's one guy specifically, he's got 100 and some thousand followers with no traction. He probably bought them, constantly posting motivational stuff, but he never loses weight, always a little bit overweight. And he's killed a few things, but they were guided, right? Nothing wrong with that. But I think if he took his own advice and maybe focused on actually getting fit, eating healthy, learning fieldcraft, bushcraft, animal behavior, he would be far better off. But, instead he pays a pretty large amount of money to go on a guided hunt, has fun, has the photo, but maybe didn't learn as much. So I'm squirreling here. So one's just experience. And when I say that, when you're in the field, the more you get in the field, the more that you learn and screw up. The more you screw up, failure is the best teacher. The more you're going to learn from that, the better off you're going to be. So, if you're hunting public land, a lot of it's going to be your spot. Because, if you just show up like out-of-state guys do, which, it's super handicapped, show up out-of-state in some spot, just kind of wander around hoping for the best, it's very hard to be successful. So if you have like a local that's successful every year, one, they're probably a really good hunter, but two, they have a really good spot. So that helps. The next thing obviously is just going to be hitting what you're aiming at. So whether it's archery or rifle or whatever, is going to be accuracy and with accuracy and with an animal in front of you and the experience of when to draw, what to do. There's a lot that goes on with that. The next thing is obviously going to be fieldcraft, bushcraft, how long you can stay out in the field, how comfortable you're going to stay when you're out there, and then obviously not alerting the animals of what's going on. Patience is another one, being very patient in what you're doing and know when not to be patient. But this is debated, like this is why I don't get on forums all the time, in a very negative way at times, as far as like, and I'll use Rogan, for example, like, he gets criticized because he goes on these, hunts that are expensive. There's actually nothing wrong with that. He has a very busy life, and, Cam does the same thing, and there's other guys, and you look at Cam was brought up, he built the castle that he lives in. He built that foundation on DIY hunting. So does that mean that Cam wouldn't be successful if he went back and hunted publicly? No, I'm sure he'd still be successful. Hard work, animal behavior, all of those different things are going to be huge. But if, experience, that's a big one. So, if you're coming out west to hunt from back east, and you're like, I just want a 300-inch bull, just a good representation of the species. You might get that, but really you should probably shoot the first thing that stands in front of you. If it's your first, second, or third elk, within reason. Man, I look tired. you need to experience the whole total package, meaning getting your bow drawn, putting the arrow in the animal under pressure, cutting the animal up, getting the animal out. So experience is a big one. I probably didn't answer that as well as I probably should have, but there you go. Let's see. Aron, you've been fortunate enough to hunt multiple different species all over the place. What would be your favorite hunt and your favorite animal? If you could just list one or two, that would be awesome, and why? Favorite animal, mountain goat would be my number one favorite, animal as far as that goes. And then after that, it would be really difficult for me to choose between spot and stock mule deer and whitetail hunting. It's just difficult. I love whitetail hunting. It's not as physically challenging, which is why I like the high country mule deer and mountain goat. But gun to my head, mountain goat is number one. Favoriteest hunts, man. The mule deer hunt a few years ago with the recurve with Frank was a really cool experience. Spot and stock mule deer in Alberta, but it would be hard for me to choose, just one. But oddly enough, elk is not on the top of the list. I like hunting elk, and I hunt a lot of different species. Scott Reekers and I were just talking about this. But yeah, mountain goat would be number one. But I don't, elk does not turn my crank like it once did, probably from getting the shit kicked out of me on public land for years. It's just tough killing elk on public land, especially DIY public land over the counter. Oh, good Lord, it's rough. And I've got criticized for this, but if I never hunt an OTC DIY Colorado elk hunt ever again, I'll die a happy man. It just sucks. It's getting rougher and rougher, and they're changing some things down there. So, but mountain goat would be, one of my favorites, and definitely the hunt with Bart when I killed that goat up in British Columbia was pretty amazing. That would definitely be one of my top. So, okay. Next question. Aron, I know you've done multiple videos and podcasts talking about your possibles pouch. I saw John Barklow came out with a Don't Die pouch. I think he copied that from you. He certainly did. Barklow's friend, I don't mind at all. What is in your possibles pouch all the time? I know that it changes at some points throughout the year and area that you hunt, but if you were going to list 10 things that are in your possibles pouch that are important to you and everyone else, and he capitalized and everyone else, what would those be? And I think when he says and everyone else, I wear contacts and I wear glasses. These are always going to be in my possibles pouch or extra contacts. So I'm not going to list contacts. What else would be in there that nobody else? Probably just contacts. I used to have migraine pills, but I don't get migraines anymore. So probably contacts wouldn't be in there. So I'm going to write this down. I should have had this prepped. So in my possibles pouch, out of the gate is going to be a headlamp. So that's number one. And these aren't in order of importance. These are in order of my shitty memory. Number two, aqua tabs. I'm going to have aqua tabs in my pouch all the time. That's an MSR aqua tab. Next thing is going to be in my pouch, and that's along with the headlamp, is extra AAA batteries. I don't know if we'll count that as one or two. After that, fire starter, so trioxane. And there will be a video up, or it may already be up, that I did with Jerry about fire starting, but I'm going to list this up. Trioxane, a very small ferro rod. It's a 1/8 inch. You can look at the video about that. And then I also will keep the Zippo waterproof matches, a few of those or a lot of those depending. So those are all going to be in my possibles pouch as well. A compass. And so I'm either going to have a silver Ranger with a mirror, or the Ranger 2.0, the Sunto M9, which is my wristwatch compass, which I think is laying in here somewhere. Those would be the two compasses that I would have in there. Generally, it's going to be the M9 compass that's in there. And when I say possible pouch, I'm going to list some of the medical stuff as well, just lump it all into one. Or I am not going to list the medical stuff and list it all into one. The medical will be different. I'm also going to have a few surgical blades and a scalpel type handle, and then a jack stone from Montana Knife Company. I'm also going to have inside that Possibles pouch some electrolyte mix and caffeine. I'm going to have some pain pills, Benadryl, charcoal tablets, things like that. I really should have got the Possibles pouch out. I'm going to have a marking panel from Team Easties. I can't remember what the name, ELAM panel, I think is what they call that. I'm probably just going to do a separate video. You get the idea. Basically, it's going to be what I need. Ziploc bag will be in there. I'll have Jerry put a link up for the Possibles pouch video that I had done and go over that. But, the biggest thing that's in that Possibles pouch is what I need to survive if I get stuck overnight, that's with me all of the time. I probably should have better prepared for that video or that question. Aaron, my boots constantly squeak and I can't seem to figure it out. My pack squeaks as well. I know you've talked about this before and said something about wax, but what should I do to fix some of these issues? The boots come and go depending upon what I'm doing, where I'm at, and if I have been in wet weather. Please let me know. Thank you for your time. So the boot thing's easy. I don't have boot. I did a video the other day on boot treatment. Get, if you have leather boots, synthetic, whatever, but leather boots are generally going to squeak more. Get like bear grease or Nick wax or some kind of treatment, not snow seal, and treat your boots, and that's going to take the squeak away. A lot of times it's where, see, I'll just pull my shoe off here. A lot of times it's going to be where the lace goes over or under the tuck of the boot where the tongue is. You treat that, if you treat that with dressing with, water, like again, bear grease, that's going to take that squeak away. The only thing that if it's not in the tongue or where the laces go over, and it's your insole, that can be a little bit tougher road to hoe. If it's the insole that's squeaking, I've actually had one set of boots where I took, on my sheep feet, just to keep the noise down, I took Leuco tape and taped like that much around the back side of the insole, and that Leuco tape, stopped it and was a temporary, fix. And then what I ended up having to do was just cut the insole down so it wasn't quite as tight. But treat your boots no matter what, and that's going to take care of that problem. As far as the pack goes, if it's a Mystery Ranch and it's pre-2025 or, that's when they came out with this new frame, they just squeak and you're shit out of luck. That's not coming out. People call it the Mystery Ranch squeak. The new one doesn't really squeak as much. With Cafaro, people, the buckles will squeak a lot of times. So when you have, you can basically, when you buckle the buckle, so you have the female and the male portion, and then there's a little ear that snaps inside with the tongue to lock that buckle in place. A lot of times you can actually trim that leg that snaps in and around, and you can actually just cut a little bit off with a razor knife. But if that doesn't work, you can just take wax, Vaseline. Wax is probably the easiest, bowstring wax, or whatever, and wax that buckle up, especially if the squeaking's up in here. And you'll notice when you really load your pack heavy that it'll tend to squeak more, depending, because you're putting more and more tension and pressure a lot of times on that buckle, which will cause it to squeak when you didn't have as much tension because it's not pulling as hard where that little leg pops, up and over. So, something to think about as far as that goes. Alrighty. Let's see, next up. I have multiple questions for you, and I will list them 1 through 5 in order of importance. Appreciate you getting to these when you can. I know the last time you replied, you used talk to text, but thankfully I'm fluent in talk to text. You must have been driving because that shit did not make a lot of sense until I read it twice. Sorry about that. Okay, so question number 1. In my vehicle, I have a few different things that I feel are important. I know you've done a podcast with a few people about this. As far as being a prepper, I know you are not one, but could you tell me the most important things that you would have in your vehicle at all times? You have made it this far without dying and drive more than any human I know, so I would think your advice would be something to follow on this. Yeah, I'm not like a prepper. A lot of guys carry a lot of stuff, but so I have a med kit in my truck. And when I say a med kit, I've got 2 tourniquets, a bunch of combat gauze. I got some chest seals, basic shit. I got some Leukotape in there. I've got some vet wrap, some super glue. So the basic stuff as far as what my knowledge base can handle when it comes to helping someone. So I got, again, a bunch of quick clock, combat gauze, shit like that, tourniquet. Then I have a snow shovel in the winter. I have a big silky saw and an axe in there at all times. I have 9 road flares. I have Kim lights where the things you snap and they glow. I have those in there. I have a fire starting kit in my truck. I have a stove, which I can't honestly say if I've ever used, but I have a small, what I have in there. I think it's either way, I can't remember if it's a pocket rocket. I have a little cook kit in there. Mostly that's for coffee if I'm at a trailhead or something, but I have a cook kit in there. I have a wool blanket from Pendleton that I keep in there at all times. I have a recovery system kit, which is toe straps, some choker straps, some snap. Anyway, I have some stuff like that in there, and at all times. I have an extra pair of socks, extra pair of underwear, in a duffel bag. I've got a puffy jacket in there. This is all in like a duffel bag, and I've got usually a gun in there that I take out every night. I've got a hatchet or like a war hawk. I've got kind of that Montana knife, survival knife. I've got that in there. And I have too much knives, and I've got the chopper in my vehicle as well. So the way that I look at, AMSR Aqua Tabs, I have a purification system in there. Really the way that I look at this is I base this off of what has happened to me over, the years of getting stuck or whatever. And so, water, I always want to have clean water. Food wise, I don't keep food in the truck. I used to. But really, and I don't like MREs. The most I would probably throw in there, I just got a new truck, would be throw an MRE or 2 in there. But as far as food that's perishable, I don't, do that, and I don't, put backpacking food like freeze dried food in there. Maybe I probably should, but I don't generally do that. But I just look at like the road flare. That's from everything from wrecks to fire starters to anything like that, signaling anything, whatever. And then obviously the aqua tabs are for water. Recovery stuff is self-explanatory, getting towed out or towing someone out. The axe and the saw are really for not really firewood as much, but if I'm camping by the road, that's one thing. But it's if a tree's falling down on a road I'm going on, I can take that saw and get that out of the way, then use my toe strap or whatever, and then yank it out of the road so I can get through. The snow shovel is for when I get stuck, which I do and have gotten stuck really badly in the winter. So I have that snow shovel. Wool blanket, obviously, is to keep warm overnight. The coffee, stuff like that. So pretty basic crap, but I've always had great luck with that. Occasionally I'll carry an extra, I think it's a Rotopax fuel can, which I did not have filled when Jerry and I ran out of fuel. That's the only time we ever ran out of fuel. But pretty basic stuff. But there's a ton of overlander videos and preparedness videos out there, but what I've got's worked for me. So that's important. Oh, extra contacts and glasses. I always keep a set of glasses in my truck. All right, moving on here. Okay, this was about arrow tuning. Aron, you shoot a recurve with a cant or leaned over, if that makes sense. And I'm wondering if you tune your bow that way, or you do tune it vertical and then shoot canted. So what he's saying is, if I'm looking at you, shooting the bow vertical, so I'm drawn back and shooting like this. Well, I hunch over and shoot with the bow canted, right? So I shoot with the bow canted like this, not vertical. I personally tune the bow exactly the way that I shoot it. So I shoot it canted. I've had this question asked before as far as, well, if you shoot it vertical and you have a left tear or a right tear, you know how to tune that out. Where canted, how do you know exactly what to do? It's really probably you're putting too much thought into that. So if I shoot canted and my arrow's, tearing left or knock high left, or whatever, I just extrapolate, say, okay, well, if it's tearing, straight left, then I'm going to tune it, accordingly. So when I say accordingly, meaning that it's weak. So I'm going to tune it to be weak like it was vertical. And if that doesn't take it out and I need to adjust the knock height a hair, I will. But again, I start with it just like if I was shooting vertical, which generally fixes it without an issue. But if I don't quite get that out, then I may adjust the knocking point. But I tune it just like I'm shooting vertical, even though I'm not, and it's never been, an issue whatsoever. All right, another question from this guy with the traditional, Aaron, I know that you shoot point on and have anywhere from a 34 to 40 yard point on distance. Why the 34 to 40 yard point on, and what is the easiest way to adjust that if I'm going to take up that method of shooting? Okay, so point on means if this is my arrow and this is my tip. When I draw the bow back, the tip of my arrow, when I put that on a target at 40 yards, I hit perfectly on that target, or 34 or whatever. Meaning, obviously you have to figure out what that point on is, but the shorter the arrow, right, the farther the point on distance, the longer the arrow, the closer the point on distance. So I'm able to, tune that out accordingly, with my arrow length. I'm generally shooting, and I don't shoot a recurve that much anymore, somewhere in the 54 to 57 pound range. I'm generally shooting a 300 spine arrow with 250 grains up front. And that's varied a little bit. So I know that if I cut a 32-inch arrow down to around 30 inches, that my point on is going to be around 35 to 36 inches, depending on the speed of the bow and everything else and the way that I anchor. So I anchor pretty high because I do shoot point on or gap shoot. And so the way that I adjust it personally, I never change my anchor. I'm just adjusting my arrow length. And so people have asked, okay, well, how do you do that? Well, it's pretty simple. If you want a really far point on, instead of a 300 spine, in my case, I would go to a 350 spine and cut that thing as short as humanly possible. That would give me a farther point on. Or in, reverse, I would bump down a spine and go to a 300 spine, have to shoot a longer arrow for it to tune out, and then I would have a closer point on distance. So, and obviously the point weight, I'll adjust that accordingly to tune that out. But that's how I use my point on. As far as the 34 to 40, it depended upon what I was hunting, how I was feeling, what year it was. But I would say, after shooting as much as I had, in that a 34 to 36 yard point on for most things is probably a good idea. High country mule deer, things like that. I originally started with a 40 yard point on, but all my high country mule deer were 36 yards into like 4 feet. So, take that for what it's worth. Okay. Next and last question, Aaron. I see that you swapped from all in to capture gear and never heard you talk about any other of the phone scope digiscoping systems. MagView is another good one, but I'm looking at getting one for my Swarovski spotting scope. What would you suggest and why? Is the capture gear better, different, or what? Thanks, buddy. I've done videos on this and podcasts and stuff like that. So the biggest difference between capture and all-in, or one of the differences, is with all-in you've got this deal that goes on the eyepiece of the scope, and then you have this big square thingy whopper, right, and it just sticks to it. Pop it off, stick it on. That's a good thing, right? There's nothing wrong with that, except you've got that big honkin' dealio, Husker-Du on your spot or on your phone, so you can't really use it as a phone case very well because it sticks out. And so with this, and this is actually the capture gear case, you have this portion here where I slide the adapter on that snaps to the eyepiece. So it's a magnet on the eyepiece, and so you keep basically the same eyepiece on the capture gear, and then you have this deal that slides on. I don't have it on me, I should have grabbed it. And then with the capture gear, I can actually hit and adjust, so when it's on the eyepiece, I can actually hit a button on that and adjust it to where I want it like that and get it perfect. The other thing with the capture gear is I can use all of my lenses on my phone when I pop that off real quickly, where with the all-in, you can't use all of them and you got to actually pull the case off, where with the capture, once I hit that little button, slide that off, I can use all the different camera lenses, which is important, to me. So that would be the biggest difference. And again, you can check out the podcast I did with capture gear. There's nothing wrong with all-in at all. But I do, since I'm a photographer and I document a lot of stuff with the phone, it is nice popping that thing off. So I think, yep, that's going to be it. I'm at 35 minutes. I'm trying to keep these around 25, 35 minutes. So if you have any questions, again, Aron at bornprimitive.com. And then you can message me on Instagram or the Born Primitive page or whatever, and then I'll get to them. If you want your name mentioned with the question that you ask, note that. Otherwise, I don't want to mention. I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to piss anyone off by mentioning their name. But thank you for tuning in. Appreciate all the support.